name is Jonathan Jordan. I'm 20 years old. I come from Basel and I'm a beach volleyball player while I do my law studies. My parents wanted me and my brother to play many sports as possible to find like the perfect one for us. And so I played like football, handball, tennis, all these things. And but most of the time I was playing from 6 to 11. I was playing tennis like on a good junior level, but this then my parents separated and got divorced, and so I came with my mother to Switzerland. And because it's much more expensive than in Germany, we couldn't afford these lessons for tennis. So my mother said I need to find a new sport. So that's also a reason why I came to volleyball. Then I started indoor, and like most of the people do. And then there was like this SAR where the people, the trainers, the coaches, they gave us the possibility to practice speech also. And the tournaments came then for the under 15. And so I started with playing beach volleyball, and at first it wasn't so good for me. I wasn't so successful as I wanted to be, but it was so much fun because it was outdoor and sun and always a good time. And so I said to myself, yeah, let's try this and push really hard there. And now I'm here. Um, I think first of all, because when you see top players, you see what the life they have. Like they can travel the countries, like travel the world, and do the thing that they love. I mean, it's so much fun playing volleyball, and especially at the beach. And there are so many nice locations, and also the spectators. It's always the crowd is always going crazy when there's like a big tournament like Vienna or Gstaad, and that just motivates me really much. And it's also because when you see where you start and where you are now, it was like for me it wasn't easy to start because I was from Germany and came new to Switzerland, and it was like a hard time and a new sport. I didn't know anyone, and it was a long time that I wasn't good, and I had to fight myself through everything. And suddenly it made a change, and then I became good. And this is something I don't want to lose. I mean, I fought really hard for this, and I want to keep it going. I wasn't so accepted like I wanted to be, but I don't want to blame others, or maybe it was myself, but it's just like if you don't feel accepted, you have two options. Either you quit, or you do keep pushing and do the best out of it. And that was I talked a lot with my mother because I wasn't happy then, and she said, "Look, you have these two options, and it's up to you what you do." And then I said, "Okay, I don't want to quit now because I just started and I don't really know how it is." And then I keep pushing, and that's how it came out now. And I think if you don't find one way like you want it to be, there's always another way, and there are so many possibilities to make your way. I mean, at first I didn't make it at Basel, and then I switched my partner, and I came to another canton, Aargau, where I trained with some other people and other coaches. And then for me, everything was more on a fun base. And then everything worked good, and became better. And then was this training camp in Germany where I went with my father, and there were also new people and new coaches, and they taught me stuff. And then I came back and I was so much better. And then I got accepted from all the other players from Basel, and so everything came out well. Depends on the sports you're doing. I mean, if you're doing like something where you need your body, where you only need your body, it's it's more easier if you just focus on what you're doing and keep pushing. But if you're doing like a sport where you need to be creative or like read situations. And if it's a team sport, you need to have fun, because if someone is having fun on the court, it spreads to the others, and not in a bad way. It's always in a good way where the others feel more comfortable. And if you feel free and comfortable, you play so much better, because you really try things, and then you come into a flow, and it works just much better. If you're like this strict and stressed, where you always want to do it right, it doesn't work out. What is good for me is like that I have a will. I mean, if I'm playing against like the big nations like Russia or Germany, for me it's not like, oh fuck, we need to play against these big nations. And it's like, okay, we play against these nations and we are good too. I mean, if you don't try, you can't win. And so I always try my best to be on the court. And I think on the sportive level, it's like that I'm very quick, so I'm fast, and I can read the situations very well. And also, it's not so bad that I can jump very high, so that helps me also. I played with Alexei Strasser like for one season, and I have to be fair and say this was my best season. And it was kind of a funny story, because I played the under 19 Swiss championship with my partner, and we won this. And we already talked with my partner, so yeah, let's do it again for a season. And then the partner from Alexei for the Swiss championship, for the elite one, he got injured. So Alexei came to me and said, hey, do you want to play? I saw you on the court, it looks good, so you want to play with me? And then I started with him, and we played. For me it was good, for him probably not so good, but we finished fifth. And then I was I was 18 then, and then I was like, wow, okay, I'm 18 and I can be fifth at this, and I played good then. So Alexei asked me if I want to play the whole season with him, and I was like, oh fuck, now I already said yes to my old partner, and what do I do now? And I was such in a conflict with myself. What do we do now? I mean, I can't say no to my partner, and but then I decided to play with Alexei, and I have to say that this was maybe the best decision I ever did, because then I played like a really good season with 2 times silver, 1 time bronze on the highest level of from Switzerland, and many gold medals like on the A2 and A3, like the second and third league. And that was like a really good season for me, and I'm really proud that I managed this. And at the end of the season, I got honored as Youngster of the Year. That's like the best junior, and that was really a moment where I was really proud of this whole season. So, like I said, in this season, it was like the side out was on me. Like they served most of the time on me, because I'm the younger one. I'm not so good as Alexei and not so experienced, as you said, and that makes me that made me feel like now it's on my shoulders. Like if we win the game or not, it depends on me. And so it was, and so most of the times it went out good. So I think this also made me experience, because I have like many repetitions in game style situations. Like you you only learn if you compete. I mean, if you always do the setting, and you don't have to side out and you don't have to attack, it's it doesn't grow you as a person, or how to deal with these how to deal in bad situations where you don't feel so good. And I think so in beach volleyball, experience is a big factor, because sometimes you don't feel so good physically. I mean, you don't jump as high if you want, or you can't hit as hard or as precise as you want. So then is experience so important, because then you can like play the things you always did, and most of the time it works out well. And if you're not so experienced like me, you then you try something out, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, that's the way it went. Because my parents got divorced and there was a down and I had to get up myself. I mean, I had bad grades in school and I had to find a way to get back into normal life. And I think what's the most important thing for someone who is young and has to deal with like these downs is this, that if you don't find the one way you want to be, you can find another way, and there's always a possibility to get what you want. I mean, there are so many options you have, and if you don't want it, and if you don't get it what you want, maybe it's not the right thing you want. And most of the time, it turns out well. I mean, if you do a decision that you do by heart and not by your head. I mean, if you really want it by heart, then it turns out good because you somehow you manage it with much more effort. It was quite interesting because we went to Switzerland, and at first I didn't want to go here to Switzerland because I was, oh, a new country. I don't know someone. I want to have my friends. I don't want to lose them. But then we made like a list what's positive and what's negative to moving to Switzerland. And that's what I do a lot now because I don't know, something somehow it got stuck in my head that this is a that if you do a list and you can see what's positive and what's negative, you can you have so many aspects and you can like weigh them, if what's more important, what's less important. And there was so it was something that stuck in my mind. And the support from my mother was huge. I mean, she drove me to so many trainings, so many practice and tournaments. She drove me everywhere. And also, I mean, she worked really hard to let me live my dream and have fun. And yeah, I think without my family, I couldn't be here. For me, I was in a sports class at Gymnasium Bäumlihof. This is like where you have many talents from different sports. And so I went to the class with a few volleyball players, but also football players, rugby players, some of this. And so for me, it was like sometimes frustrating because you see what the footballers achieve. I mean, not because they are better than us, but because it's a well-paid sport and they get everything like a Nike contract and something like this. And you work like the same or even harder, but you don't get the same feedback from the outward. And but it was like, okay, so you have to work harder to achieve that. I mean, there are many players that have like a good contract with sponsors, and if you want this, you have to be like really on top of the game. And so if you want this too, you have to work really hard. So I think it was a good challenge. In the morning, I wake up like 8:30, something like this. Depends on my lectures from university. But then I wake up, do one lecture, and eat. Most of the time, similar. And then I have like a little bit of work to do, like now with athletes or something, like a interview. And then I go and eat my lunch. And after that, most of the time I have trainings at Bern. So I take the train, go there, and practice for 2 hours. And after that, I come back here or go to the gym, like where I do my fitness program. And then I come back and do another lesson or lecture for the university. And then in the evening, I do read a bit because we have so many books, so big books where where we need to read, and that's like a big part. So where you need to read. I have a planet I do for every week where I write down what I need to do and until when it needs to be done. And for me, we have like on Friday it's free, like we have no university, and that's my goal. Like that, I have free on Friday. Only on Friday we have one training, and that is my goal. That I have one training on Friday. I can sleep a bit longer, go to the training, and after that I can see my girlfriend or whatever I want to do. And what I do a strict timetable, which means that I have like goals for a day where I have training and two lectures. And I say, okay, I have an optional goal, like do one lecture before the training and one lecture after. But if it doesn't work out, I mean, if I don't get the lecture before the training, I do it afterwards. So I don't want to work on Friday. So that's my goals. That's what keeps me up to date. She also plays volleyball, but not on such a high level. But she supports me in all the ways, and she is very understanding if I have no time. And it's always like in the beginning it was like, oh, you don't write me back because for like 2 3 hours, and I was like, oh, sorry, I wasn't training, I couldn't. And then it was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And but now I think she really understood it, and she knows what the volleyball means to me and the importance of it for me, and she really supports me, and I'm really happy that she's so understanding and supportive. For me, when I don't want to do anything, the problem is that I often lay into the bed. So, and when I'm in bed, it's really hard for me to stand up again. But then I set myself a clock. So, and when the clock is ringing, like it says, okay, now you need to stand out now, get out of the bed. And when I'm standing, I don't know what to do. And so I don't want to stand around like doing nothing. And in my flat, I'm here like, oh, okay, what can I do now? And then sometimes I do like, if I don't want to work like for university, I do something for my apartment, or like cooking, meal preparation, something like that, or cleaning. And if I and I mean, sometimes you think, oh, I would have to clean now, or I can do a lecture. And sometimes you are in the mood for cleaning, and sometimes you don't want to clean, right? And then you have, okay, now I have two options. Okay, then yeah, I do the lecture now. And then so it's I give myself two possibilities, two options, and then I always do the one I would like more. Like, oh, I'm like a bit ashamed, you know? It's just like, uh, you should have done it. It's really, you don't do someone a favor. I mean, you only hurt yourself if you don't do it what you're doing. And I mean, it's only for your own good. I mean, the lectures are improvement for myself. I mean, I learn a lot when I do these lectures, and this is something I always repeat in my mind. I mean, it's not for someone else. I don't do it for someone else. I do it for my own good. And I want to, it was my decision to study. And so why shouldn't I invest now when I did the decision? We had someone who quitted sports in the sport class. And there was one point when I thought to myself, okay, she did it. So maybe I could do it too. And it was like, yeah, okay. And then I was like, but is it really like what you want? And then I always feel like when we have, after the season, we have 1 month off. So no trainings, no contact with the others like this. And this is such a hard time for me because you miss the social interacting with the others, you miss the beach volleyball, and you don't feel fit, and you gain weight, and you just don't feel so good. And for me, it's this is something I really don't want to, because I want to feel good in my own body, and that's just why I do my sport also. Like, it's a social interaction. It's like you keep fit, you get out of the house, you get fresh air, and it's something that you really don't want to lose. I think beach volleyball is a very mental sport, but I think that my attitude, like this, I'm not giving up, and it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. I think that helps me a lot, and sometimes it's a bit too much for me. I mean, when I see myself on video, like rewatching games, I was like, oh, what? how do I behave on court, and it's like it's someone really different from me now. But I think that's also good in sports if you have like a very competitive side, and which helps you to do all these challenges. Yeah. Right now, I want to be like in the elite cadre, but like the biggest goal for me is I want to play the Olympic Championships. I think that's the dream of every athlete who's Olympian. And I mean, I just want to have the feeling to be a part of this big event. I mean, it's so cool when you see it on TV, like all these different sports and all these different nations. 2028 is like my big goal, like Los Angeles, 2028. But Paris, 2024 is like not so realistic, but it could work. Very, very close. But my goal is like for LA 2028. This is my big goal to come to the Olympics. A lot of training, of course, and I want to I want to progress on my own. Like I don't want to have someone who lifts me up. I mean, I want to be the one who is the important one, like on the court. I want to be. It's not that, oh, you're going with him. It's more like he's coming with you, because I want to be like that's my motivation, because I want to be like the really good one, like the best in my country who deserves to go there. And so that's why I'm working hard. You have like these two people on the court, and the rules are strict. I mean, you have one blocker and one defense player, and I think you don't have to be best friends, but it helps a lot if you come alone. I mean, if you have a good vibe on the court, because if you get you do have you have so much time together. I mean, you travel together, you sleep in the same room for a long time, and you're on court. You train five to six times a week together, and then you have to come along with the others. And I think so. A partnership can be both. Like it can be a good thing or a bad thing for you. But if it's a good thing, it can lift you up very high to a very high level. But if you don't come along with your partner, it can really destroy you, because then you have like, for example, a bad set, and then you think, oh, again a bad set. So to show him that it wasn't a good set, I make a mistake, or not like that, but I'm allowed to make a mistake now. And if you think like this, then then you destroy yourself. And I mean, you play as a team, so you win as a team and you lose as a team. It doesn't matter if you're with who you are. It's someone that supports you going into the right thing. It's not someone. I mean, he can't control you. I mean, you have to do your own part, but it's also like your partner, because sometimes he has another vision of the game. I mean, if you're playing and you're like so focused on the game, you don't see everything. I mean, sometimes an enemy, like the opposite one, are always like getting good touches on the block, and you don't know why. You really don't know why. And then sometimes you need a new input from another perspective, and this helps you grow so much and maybe get out of this hole. And if you're in training and you do always the same mistake, and it doesn't work what you're doing, and someone says, okay, maybe try another thing, maybe try it like this, and this is your coach most of the time, and then maybe it doesn't work, but he's here to help you, and he says, okay, it doesn't work, try it like this, and at some point it has to work, and it works. And I think so the coach is here to help you out if it doesn't work the way you want it. So we train like almost every day, and so I think it's hard not to keep like it's hard not to lose like the interest, like of um. So if you don't get lazy in your mind, it's not like, oh, I go to training now and I play a bit of beach volleyball and then I go home. It's just that you get the best out of every training. I mean, you have so many touches in one training with the ball, and if you try to make the best out of every ball, you get so much better in a week. I mean, it's you feel so much better, and there's so many small things that need to be adjusted in beach volleyball, like the position of your approach to the ball, and there's so many small things that can help you so much. And if you don't do the simple things right, you won't make it in the big. I mean, if you do in training, like if there's a free ball and you don't do it right, then in game maybe you do it right, but maybe you don't do it wrong. But if you do it always right in training, then you do it always right in the game. Read about something like this, but it's sometimes on YouTube you see like these mental health videos where you also for sports, like where you can watch. And it's not that I say, okay, I agree with everything what they say, but I just pick myself what I can live with, what I can use, and then I use also the advice from my coach. And I think I don't accept everything that my coach says. Like in I mean that's just me. I don't think, okay, the coach says red is a nice color, and I say, okay, yeah, when the coach says red is a nice color, it is a nice color. Say, okay, I don't like red. But if he says blue is also a nice color, and I say, okay, yeah, I agree with that. It's what I can use for myself, and I accept it. And sometimes it makes me better like this way. I think for me it works better when a coach is like rough and just says me, "Come on, man, you know how to do it better." Because at first I'm like a bit um I don't know how to say it. It's like mad or something like that. But then I realize, okay, and then I'm like, okay, I want to show him that I can do better, like what I did before. And it's just like he says, like, oh, you can't hit, you can't hit hard. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And then I'm like, the next one I'm going to hit like with 120 km per hour. It's just like, so I can prove you I'm better than you think. It's just like this. It's possible because if I don't, I mean, I want to have like also good feedback. I mean, it's not like always the bad, and then I keep pushing it harder. But I also want to, when I do something well, I want to, I mean, when I do something really well, I want to hear it also from the coach that he thinks I did good. But if he, I mean, if he always says that something is bad, you think you get to think that, oh, everything is bad what I'm doing, and then you get like into a negative mood, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can't do anything right. And I think that wouldn't be so nice for me. A Norwegian guy, Christian Sorum, and he's doing, I mean, he's not so spectacular as his partner, but he's so stable, and I think, and so consistent, and I think that was so crazy in this sports. The consistency is so important, and it's just crazy how he's dealing with 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 every ball, and that's really what I want to be. I want to be like as consistent as he is. And I mean, everyone has like these highlights, and he has such a constant level on playing on a high level, and that's really a goal for me. I would tell him that it doesn't matter what other people think of you. It's always if you're good with yourself. I mean, if you're in a harmony with yourself, it's right. It's okay to be like you. I mean, you don't have to act to be someone different just to please others. I mean, if you're you and nobody likes you, it's not nice, but at least you're good for yourself. And if you stay true with yourself, you will get there if you want. And so many people will accept the way that you are. And the second advice is that you need to trust your feelings and not, I mean, the decisions you make, it's not, it's only for your own. I mean, it's only, you are the only one who needs to decide. And you can get the inputs from others, but but in the end, it's always you who needs to decide. If you really love something and you really want to do everything about it, just just be clear if it's really worth it. I mean, like if I gave all my life to beach volleyball, I know it wouldn't be good. I mean, it would be good until I'm 30 or something, but for the life afterwards, it's just like I need to study. I need to study now that I can make a job afterwards, because sports is only temporary. And I think it's not only in sports, it's everywhere in life. You always need to see, is it worth it what I'm doing? And does it help me for the rest of my life? And I mean, we're living until we're 100 or something, and it's a long life. And I think if you want to be, if you want a happy life, you need to look that it's not only until you're 30. So it needs to be a little bit more longer.